Well, developing at this hour, a robbery turned into a gas station shootout involving a retired Oakland cop.
Breaking news. Breaking
Now to an Eyewitness News exclusive. A random attack on an elderly woman at an outdoor cafe on the Upper West Side. The woman in her 90s, sucker punched in the head. The man.
Welcome to a special edition of the Chickabone News Network. I had an opportunity to do a Zoom interview today with a couple of fellas, Alexander, and forgive me, Alexander, for not being able to pronounce your last name right. And I'm not even going to attempt it because I will slaughter it. Yes, I will. But you will give us your last name during the interview. And I will have everything in the descriptions, how they can find you and how they can also find our other guest, Martin Francis, the Bible go-to guy. We had a Zoom call, the three of us did, and had a good discussion on some different subjects. And we just got through with it. Matter of fact, what time is it? It is 6:52 p.m. Sunday. And I went ahead and got it downloaded, and I put them together for you, and so the chicken boners can see this interview. And if you know some people that's not chicken boners, which we hope everybody's going to be chicken boners one day, because they need to know what's outside their front door, I hope you will show it to them and let them see it and decide for themselves what they think about this discussion. Now, we did it in two parts. Now, the first part, we had video for all of it, but the second part, for some reason, Martin's he couldn't click in, he couldn't get into the Zoom call, so I held it by telephone. I'm getting good at that. Y'all see that I had to do that when I take phone calls on my show, but that's fixed to be gone. I'm fixing to have to do that no more. I've got it pretty much all set up. But anyhow, without any further ado, check out our Zoom call. Alexander and Martin and me. All right, check it out. Recording in progress. All right, I'm here with Alexander, and I can't pronounce your last name, buddy.
Okay, that's fine. It's a very rare last name. It's Ohnemus, Ohnemus. To this day, I don't know what its origin is. It could be Jewish, could be Greek, could be Swedish, could be German. I don't know its origin to this day, so sorry.
Well, that's close enough. Bible go-to guy, is your real name is Martin Francis, right?
That is correct, sir.
All right. And
Good afternoon to both of you.
And I think Alexander is in California. And where are you at, Martin?
I'm in California. I'm on the Century Boulevard Street, right past the airport.
Okay. Well,
I just got through with a few fellas at the airport.
Yeah.
Doing some stuff.
Well, I'm down here in Georgia, so we're a hot minute from each other. But isn't it amazing? I think, Alexander, we hit on it a little bit when we talked the other night. How technology, how we can use technology either for good or for bad. And this is an amazing thing that we're able to do right here. Talk from Stacy, hold on one second. Pick that dog up, Stacy, before I had to kill him. Okay. I'm sorry. I live down here in the hood, and I got hood dogs, and they don't know when to not bark. Yeah. Well, look at here. You was talking about what you did for a living, Alexander, and I kind of wanted to hit on that a little bit and talk a little bit about the porn industry, and just talk a little bit about that, the pluses and the negatives of it.
Well, I am somewhat of a porn star / porn producer, which I'm sure you guys do not approve of, but it's like it's interesting discussion. Like I am trying to make a film / documentary about me, an autistic guy, finding and having sex. In this society, it's hard. But the group that tends to have the hardest time finding sex out of the men are the autistic ones, in my opinion. When you watch that 40-Year-Old Virgin film with Steve Carell and Seth Rogen, all those guys, remember that film? They have a lot of people rumor that the 40-Year-Old Virgin is always an autistic guy. So it's like, that's why it's just that social engineering, like making a film. I don't think I'm ever gonna get any sex. And as a man, I evolved to be horny, and women evolved to be picky. There you have it.
I get it. So you was not the norm for autistic guys, and you actually what's the word? You overachieved instead of underachieved as far as having sex goes, right?
I'm a porn producer. I'm a virgin to this day, but it's like one time, it's arguable whether or not I'm a virgin. I had one encounter one time, but like some argue it was not real sex.
Right.
But to this day, I am kind of a virgin, I guess, and sex is something that I think is interesting. I started a GoFundMe for a campaign to make a film, and I got an SBDC, a Small Business Development Center, to help me make the film. So a film school might actually help me make the film. And I might have to find like an actress lady to have sex with me, because it's a documentary / porn film where I got to explain how autistics have the hardest time having sex out of the men, or maybe not the hardest, but it's kind of hard. And I got to find like a woman to be the actress in the documentary, who I'm gonna pay to do it.
Look here, let me Martin can probably agree with this. If you're not sure you didn't have sex or not, you probably didn't. You would know if you had sex or not. What, you agree, Martin? Yeah.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah, because it's not nothing to brag on, but you know, I was 13 when I had sex the first time, and I'll never forget it. You know, that's something you never. For me, that's something, you know. It's not a moment that I cherish or think back on, but when somebody says, "When's the first time you ever had sex?" that picture just pops right back into my mind. You know, so yeah, you'd know if you had sex.
Yeah, I can't remember if my first event was 12 or 14, but it wasn't with a woman, and it wasn't masturbation. It wasn't with a dog or a man or anything like that. I was doing sit-ups, and after the sit-ups, I did leg lifts, and I was so intent on getting a little six-pack that I went beyond what the body normally, you know, you'll listen to the impulse of the body. You're real.
Sure. Wait a minute.
So that was my first sexual event of my life. Is I was overworking my belly, you know, my belly muscles and everything, and that caused me to have an orgasm at the age of what, 13, 14, something like that. Must have been a hell of a workout, Martin. You know, I went back to that many times, like making that happen, but it was too messy, and so I stopped doing it that way.
Yeah, I want to share
that was my first sexual encounter, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never had an orgasm before then. That surprised me. I said, "Wow."
Did you even know what it was when you had it?
Yeah, I knew what it was in that respect. I'd already, I think, been versed on the birds and the bees, so I knew that. I just didn't realize that you could actually cause yourself to come to an orgasm with, you know, exercise, especially the belly area, you know, where you're doing leg lifts or sit-ups or whatever. But leg lifts is what did it.
Well, I don't think I'll ever have to worry about having an orgasm working out, because I've never been one to work out too much. Yeah.
See what you missed out on.
Yeah, I missed out on a lot. These 56 years, I've missed out on a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think we hit on it, or you did a little bit, Alexander, about how pornography can help people, or help a married couple watch and learn how to please each other? Did you kind of say something to that effect?
Well, I used to have like kind of negative feelings towards porn because I had watched Jordan Peterson all the time, you know, the clinical psychologist guy who claims to be like the big guy. You know who that guy is?
I know who he is. I love
Jordan
him.
Peterson? Yeah, I know exactly.
Okay, but
who he is.
going
We all
back,
know who he is.
Yeah.
okay, going back on that, there's this objectivist guy named Yaron Brook. The Bible Go-To guy was watching an interview of him and Jesse one time when Yaron Brook was debating Jesse on stuff. But then Yaron made another video one time, and it was about the value of porn. And a lot of people don't know how to masturbate. I'm going to give you guys that. Like sometimes people just don't know. And I didn't know when I was starting off, but I managed not to injure myself too bad. But when I started, I didn't really know how to do it. That's why it's not so bad to like show a kid a tape on how to masturbate. They're going to end up wanting to do it at some point. So it's better off they don't like accidentally castrate themselves and they realize how to actually do it. That's what I am like on why I think that maybe porn could be somewhat helpful, because it maybe like someone's at least got to teach kids how to masturbate correctly. Like, I mean, not really like an adult goes up, that'd be bad. I mean, more like maybe the parents show them like a tape, and they can learn after watching a video how to do it correctly. You don't want the kid, while that may be kind of creepy, you don't want the kid to hurt themselves trying to do it, and the kid's gonna want to do it. So it's best off teach them how to not hurt. And then the Yaron Brook guy went on other stuff. He also like porn could be helpful for like educational reasons, like how does, if a man, it's his first time having sex with like a woman, how does a man know what a woman wants? So it's like that. And Yaron did not say there was anything wrong with sex. He's an objectivist, so he claims to be knowledgeable of science and stuff like that. And he does not know anything that could psychologically mess someone up by watching porn. But Jordan Peterson claims the opposite. So that's my sum up for you guys.
What do you think about that, Martin?
Well, I've got my own summary of it. I was a champion masturbator for the last 20, 30 years, almost every night for 20 some years, and using pornography to do that. And that is because I was spiritually dark and weak-minded. A weak-minded man, a weak-minded youth is someone who runs from their feelings. When you believe a thought, it causes a feeling. And when you run from the bad feelings, you run toward pleasure. And that can be the pleasure of food, sex, what's the other pleasures? Drugs, alcohol is a drug too. So it's the same thing, but you run to the pleasures in order to escape the pain of insecurity and loneliness and unforgiving heart and all those other attributes that the Bible talks about, you know, the attributes of good and the attributes of evil. So you're running from your evil side and you don't want to see it. And so what you'd rather do is pleasure yourself. That helps you forget about it.
Hold on one second. Go ahead.
As the mafia guys would say, forget about it. You're trying to forget about all the conflict that's going on within you by using pleasure, the pleasure of sex. And it could be a lot of other pleasures you use. Pleasure of food, for example. A lot of people get real fat because they're insecure, and they're insecure through their anger and unforgiving heart. And so they have to use these worldly methods to feel good. And they figure a little bit of feel good can, if they go from one feel good episode to the next, that's how they're going to get through life. And all it does is weaken you more and more mentally and spiritually, and you become like a little wuss boy after a while. You're not able to stand up to women because all you are trying to do is use them to feel better about yourself. You know, their approval is like God's approval. We substitute a woman's approval, sexual approval, for God's approval. And that is our mistake. And so when I was finally gifted with the ability to pray morning and night, within 6 months of about an hour in the morning and an hour at night, within about 6 months of being able to pray. Now, you pray by observing yourself. There's a special technique that this Jewish guy came across that helps you dehypnotize. Dehypnotize means where you become separated from your thoughts. And once you become separated from your thoughts, it's because you see that thoughts are not yours. You don't create your own thoughts. You don't make your own decisions. When you actually see that, sexual thoughts and thoughts of glory or vainglory or speaking up or what you're going to say next to that dang person that wronged you or whatever, all that stuff you just let pass by, and then you operate out of your conscience. You don't need thoughts. When you are one with your conscience now is your guide to life, and it guides you without words. You have like a new instinct within you, an instinct for good, and that can't be destroyed unless you stop praying, of course. And so that is my answer to pornography. Pornography is just an escape from what's wrong with you. And so you shouldn't teach little boys how to escape from what's wrong with them on the inside. I was just dealing with my brother's daughter, right? She's like 15, and I was saying we were all in the bedroom together, my brother, his wife, and her. And my brother wanted to take the kids to a park, right? And she was like her normal sullen self, you know. And I said, look, she's not even answering you guys. She's not even responding. She's so angry and like having look, she has a real bad spirit in her. And she immediately blew up. This anger and frustration and everything came out at once. And it was like a couple of demons or something were just like expressing themselves through her. And I said, you see what's inside of her? I told her parents, you see what's inside of her? That has to be dealt with. Well, my brother, he's not used to that stuff. He's not used to standing up at all. He's as wimpy as I used to be. And he got out of the house. He didn't even bother to chastise me. Normally he bothered to chastise me. You know, why are you upsetting my daughter and all that stuff? But he just ran out of the house and got me out of the bedroom and then left it up to the wife to calm down the daughter. And I said, Tom, you shouldn't be running from this. You should be dealing with it. You're the father. And he said, no, later, I'll do that later. And I said, he said, she'll take care of it, because he's so wussed out. Woman is his God. And so he's so wussed out. He can't even deal with the evil spirit that's now in her daughter, because he's such a weak, terrible father that you'd be frustrated too as a daughter when you don't have that kind of, when you don't have the right manliness in your father. You will freak out as a young lady. And that's her problem. And see, so I wouldn't recommend to her, hey, whatever her name is. I don't want to say it, but Sherry or whatever. Yeah, go ahead and learn masturbation, and the pleasure will help you deal with life's problems. I said, what you need to do is speak out. What you feeling about your parents, your life in general, and all that stuff. That needs to come out. And you won't need to go into the fantasy of sex or the fantasy of food. You know, we can get lost in our food.
Can I say something? I like that, but the thing is, the kid, whether you like it or not, the kid is eventually going to at least try to do it. And when they try, you want the kid to castrate themselves. So that's why you got to at least.
Oh, that's all a bunch of bunk. You don't castrate yourself. I taught myself how to masturbate.
I used to do it by squeezing my.
Without even using porn. I knew not to be too hard on my own genitals. You know, I mean, that's just common sense.
I used to squeeze myself.
Crazy, like you think you need a teacher or a coach. In the good old days, boys and stuff, they could even learn. I even learned to shoot by myself. I didn't need anybody to teach me.
Well, let me weigh in just a minute on this. Alexander, I know you're a young guy, so you probably don't, I don't know if you ever looked into him too much, but I know Martin will remember. You remember Ted Bundy?
I do.
Okay, Ted Bundy.
You remember what yes, perfect point. Say it.
He the last interview he did, or actually the only interview he did before his execution, was with James Dobson. I don't know if you remember James Dobson. He was a Christian, and
I remember him.
And he did it. They had an interview together.
Sounds scary.
And Ted Bundy said that when he first started out in porn, it was, it was just with magazines like Playboys and stuff.
As
And
I
then,
did.
and then that didn't satisfy what he was getting out of it. It did to begin with. He was enjoying it, but then he needed more and more because that soft porn wasn't doing it for him. So he got the harder magazines like the Hustler, which we, is a little bit more graphic than a Playboy is. And then that satisfied him for a little while, but he needed more and more. And
But the ego is never satisfied. That's why he needed more and more. The ego is of hell, and it always needs more.
And that's what led him to the point to where he was, killing these women.
Oh yeah.
So
and he blamed porn. He said porn helped him become worse.
Exactly. You're exactly
and
right.
it does, because it weakens you. See, porn is like it helps you get into fantasy, right? And in fantasy, everything is possible, including murder and suicide and rape and
Now, you guys
robbery and all that stuff.
You guys have almost convinced me to just leave the porn industry. You guys are starting to convince me to leave that industry with what you're saying. I really appreciate the wisdom.
Thank you. Yeah, you should. And once you start doing the observation prayer that Roy Master teaches of the Foundation of Human Understanding, he passed on a couple of years ago, but his sons still keep it going. They sell his books and tapes. But the observation technique is so simple. I could teach it to you in a minute. And once you see, the problem is nobody really wants to do it. I know a lot of people who've known of this man who taught this way to observe yourself, so you can overcome your hypnotism. You can overcome your anger, the evil spirits that's within you. You can allow the Holy Spirit to clear that all out of you for you. But you need to see it in yourself first. You first need to see it. And so that's what this observation technique does. It allows you to see what's in there, what needs to be burned out of there. And, but most people won't do it because, like me, for 20, 30 years, I could not stand to see myself. And so,
let me ask you something, Martin.
Ask away.
When you say that all thoughts are lies, I don't know if you saw that.
Especially the good ones.
I don't know if you saw that interview that Jesse had in Michigan the other day with that.
I did. He knows not what he's talking about, Jesse.
Well,
he tries to say the same thing I say, but he's never practiced it. He's like most people. They don't practice it.
The example was made something like this. You have a thought to pray to God, there's a need, you see something, I need to pray to God. Does that thought come from the devil? And Jesse says it does.
Yes, it does, because you already know that with your conscience. Your conscience is your direct connection to the Holy Spirit. When you were a little boy, before you learned how to speak, you were operating from the Holy Spirit. You were operating from a natural spirit of awareness. You were aware as a baby. You looked all around you. You were noticing things. You notice how babies just look straight at you? They're observing you. And that's why Jesus said we must become as children again. And he meant the ability to observe without judgment, right? Without hatred. Judgment in this sense means without hating what you see, the evil that you see within yourself or within others. That's what judgment really means.
So if I'm sitting here and I get through doing some work on my computer or whatever, and I don't feel like really going in there to the bedroom and watching TV or whatever, but something says, you know what, now's a good time, you need to pray to the Lord. That's my conscience. That's not a thought process.
If it came in words, that's Satan. If you just have like the knowing, how sometimes you're doing if you were ever doing a serious math problem or whatever, and the answer just popped in your head, you didn't have to logically think it out. Because I was involved in engineering in my former career, right? And it would seem like my thoughts would give me all the multiple wrong answers, but when I calmed down and allowed the answer to come to me, it did come to me. And a lot of people, when they're not looking for the answer, you've heard a lot of inventors. They'll say, "Oh, I went to the bar, I was looking into my beer, and pop, I wasn't even thinking about what I was working on earlier in the day, but the answer came to me. It just came to me. And that's what I'm talking about. When you are of God, and you're more connected to your conscience will guide you like your thoughts guide you now. Your thoughts try to guide you with good thoughts. Oh, go buy yourself this, or go talk to mama and work it out, or something like that. But if you hear it in English in your head, in your voice, that ain't you, buddy. You already know what to do from your conscience, but you have to become more separated from your thoughts, and you have to become more at one with your conscience, like when we were children before we knew how to speak.
What's your thought on that, Alexander, about all thoughts are lies and that you've never had an original thought? What do you think about that?
I am kind of skeptical of that. It's like I grew up in a very free thinking household. My parents, like, we were Catholic, but it's like my dad's dad usually not take communion. So it's like that. That's like, as far as all thoughts are lies, that sounds kind of dogmatic to.
Well, let me explain why. You see, the whole
my dad's coming to give me something. I'm having a meeting with you guys. Let me have a few minutes.
All right. I'll wait with the answer until he comes back.
Nice guy, as part of school. Thank you, Dad.
Yeah, that interview that Jesse had with that chaplain or whatever, that, I mean, he contradicted himself so many times. If I was him,
He did, because like I said, he's never done the prayer as it should be done. He's always been a liar as far as that's concerned. He's never I don't even believe any of the stories he said. Now, I don't know if what all the different stories he used to tell of his life, I don't know if any of them were ever true.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if they paid him to go out there or they just flew him out there, him and Nick, and give him a free meal. But I'll tell you what, I sure would think twice before I go back out there and sit down with that fella. And he didn't, the thing about it is, he didn't expose Jesse for the liar that he is. He let Jesse expose himself.
Very smart, yeah. And Jesse used to do that to people. He used that same technique.
Yeah.
He used to allow people to get upset. And the fact that you're all upset is the fact that you're lying.
Oh, Jesse was upset.
People don't lie.
Yeah.
People don't get upset against a lie. They get upset about the truth that's been that about themselves that someone has exposed about them.
That's right.
Just
but
like my niece.
All right,
just like
Alexander, you're back, buddy. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, thank you, Skip. One thing that's kind of, Skip, if Jesse is such a liar, how does he remain so calm when people upset him? I noticed in an interview, people can say the most
because that's the game. Anybody can do it if they practice enough. That's the game. What you do is you say something outrageous and let them go off the handle, and then you look good in comparison. See, and people do that all the time. You'll notice that the whole trick of getting you to act foolish is to get you upset.
What's this
and
deal?
You can do anything when you're upset. When you're upset, you can do anything. Murder, hatred, all kind of evil crimes and crimes of the heart, all that stuff, when you have been made upset. And if someone can make you upset, that is de facto control of you. You are their hypnotic subject.
Let me ask you this, Martin. What's his game? And I know he uses it for his advantage when he keeps asking people the same question over and over until he gets the answer that he wants. Or
now that part of what he does has merit, because a lot of people, you'll see, he'll ask a simple question and they won't give a simple answer. They'll run from the answer and the politicians are really good at this. You ask them a direct, simple question that involves yes or no first, and then you can explain it. That's all Jesse wanted to get across, but he took too long doing it. He played too many games with it. But basically, when you ask a yes or no question, the person should answer yes or no and then explain their yes or no. But people want to go to explaining first without giving a solid yes or no. You know, like, are you for abortion? Well, I've seen many people for and against abortion, and I think in some instances both opinions are valid. And are you for or against abortion personally? You know, and so he had to repeat that many times for them to finally go, okay, what do you want? A simple yes or no? Yes. no, and they would get, they would see that they've been not answering directly, and that's all he wanted.
Right.
But that's a game that anybody can play, and people have played that back on Jesse.
What I noticed is like the trick is to answer yes or no, but then when he asks why at the end, then you give the long-winded answer. I think that's the trick with Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever somebody asks why or how, then you can give your long answer, because they are asking you how or why, and that's different from yes or no. So if he tries to cut you off if he sees his argument is being defeated and he tries to cut you off like anybody, then you know that what you've spoken is true. Right?
Kind of like when he was in that interview in Michigan, he wouldn't let the guy get a word in edgewise. He just kept on and kept on and kept on, and he would bounce from what he was actually talking about and move to something else. And the guy's like, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
But he was routing the conversation the way he wanted to get away from the bad answer he just gave. Because I tell you what, I've watched Jesse for a lot of years, but I've never seen him on the hot seat like he was in that interview.
Gentlemen, he will not face me down to save his life. If his life was at stake, he would not debate or argue or discuss with me.
Hell, he won't even talk to you, Martin. He calls the wreck the other day.
He calls
the wreck the other day to get away from me. He wouldn't even stop and talk to you. And then
you know what?
What gets me, Martin, is he calls that wreck. He walked out in a little bit.
Well, I blame the wreck on him on the video, but really, in truth, when you see two erratic old men approaching an intersection, you better start slowing down. You don't know what they're going to do. That's a joke on myself and Jesse. But truly, yeah, he did jump out there. And I, who was filming Jesse, was depending on Jesse to see the traffic, because if Jesse would have stopped, I would have stopped at the sidewalk. We would have both been killed if nobody would have seen us.
Right. Well, look here. Let me. I've got the free Zoom, right, where you can only do 40 minutes, and it was kind of hard getting it in there. So let me, if it's okay with you, because I want to continue. I want to hear a lot of what Alex has got to talk about, especially on the porn industry. And can we end this and let me restart it, and we can get back on here and get 40 fresh minutes? Are y'all okay with that?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I got enough water to maintain my voice.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and end this then. And
hey, first of all, Skip, will that mean you have to send me a new sign-on code and all that?
Yes. I'll send
okay, great. I'll do it. Bye.
All right. See y'all in just a few.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, here we go. Here we go again, Alexander. And I don't remember where we left off, but I think you was talking. So, do you remember? Because I don't remember.
Well, I'd like to see, does Viola Goduga know who Yaron Brook is, the Israeli objectivist atheist guy? Does Viola Goduga know who Yaron Brook is?
Can you hear him, Martin?
Yeah, the kinship that the atheist has with the sinner who knows he's wrong, but he can't stop sinning. The thing that both men have in common, the total atheist, there is no God. I can't prove it, but you can't prove yours. The thing they have both in common is they're both listening to that voice in their head, the one that gives them the conclusions about what they see in life, the one that makes judgments about people, places, and things, and what's happening within them, that speaks to them constantly. Man, once you start doing the prayer, you will see that thoughts and the visions and all those other things that come into your mind are happening at breakneck speed. You can hardly keep up with them. So people who are saying they're making their own decision are really blind, because you are being blasted with machine gun fire thoughts that are coming so fast and hard at you that it's like a soldier in a foxhole trying to get up out of there to charge the enemy position against a machine gun. How far do you think he's going to get?
Probably nowhere.
Right, nowhere. You're going to be blasted as soon as he picks his head up above that hole of his. And that's the way the mind is working against us also. And that's why when you slow down, you're not trying to manipulate your mind, but when you slow down, you get to see where this mind is coming from. And that when, here's the fun thing, when you start looking at the mind, it'll start backing away. And then sometimes it'll just go right to music. When you see it talking to you, you know what it is, it'll start playing music all of a sudden, or it'll just go away. It won't even say anything. It'll just go away. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah. So
well, Martin, I'm gonna tell you something, buddy. I still don't get this, and you just haven't.
Okay.
You haven't.
Let me simplify it further.
Let me finish. This doubting all thoughts. That all thoughts are lies. That we've never had a thought in our life. It's not backed up by scripture, and if it's not backed up by scripture, I've got to kick it.
It is backed up by scripture. You want to know the scripture?
Which one?
How does scripture go? Bring all thoughts into captivity. All thoughts.
Bring all thoughts into captivity. Yeah.
And what's the captivity? The captivity is your conscience. Bring all thoughts to your conscience.
But does it say doubt all thoughts, or just bring it in and examine?
You don't have to doubt them. You don't have to doubt them. You don't have to believe them. You just see them for what they are. And this is where the conscience comes in. You don't have to do anything. Seeing them is destroying them. If the devil sees that you see it, that you see him, you see where the thoughts are coming from, that they're not your creation. When you actually see that, it will start to recede, because it's like it doesn't like to be seen as it's doing its dirty work.
So the conscience is the Holy Spirit, correct?
Yes, the Holy Spirit operates through your conscience.
All right, and everything else is from Satan and his demons.
That's right, and you'll get understandings. Like I said, those lightning fast understandings. When you're at the bar looking into your beer and you're noticing the bubbles, you can just like get fascinated by little things like that. And at that point, your mind is actually free of things, of just pressures and all that kind of stuff.
I want to add something.
You're just enjoying the moment, and that's when insights come into you, and they're lightning fast, and there's lightning fast or more so than thoughts. And there's no words attached to them. You just understood.
All right, Alexander's got something he wants to ask you real quick. Go ahead, buddy.
I just want to make the observation. People keep saying Zen is like a atheist or a Buddhist or some kind of Eastern thing or some kind of lacking God there. That is very Zen sounding, but that comes straight from the Bible, according to you guys. It's very Christian. So
I want to say they do not talk about thoughts as it is from Satan. I don't know what they do. But see, I think their thing is like they focus on their breath, or they focus on this. No, you're not supposed to do that. That's just like trying to overcome a spiritual force that you have no power over. And so they try to block out thoughts, evil thoughts or bad thoughts, or what they call yin yang. They'll try to block out one or the other. We're not trying to do that. We're not trying to control the mind or hypnotize ourselves. We're just trying to see where the source of what's in our mind, the source of like say you'll be working on something, you'll be trying to do your homework, you're a schoolboy, you're trying to do your homework, and yet these dang rock and roll songs or these, whatever music you like, it'll start flowing in your head, distracting you from what you're doing, trying to break your focus. That's evil. That's evil. And when you actually try to practice this observation prayer, you will see the thoughts will take you off into thought land. It'll take you off into daydream land and stuff, and you have no power to stop that. But when the conscience brings you back out of it, when God brings you back out of it, and you're conscious again, you will see, wow, I was carried away by my thoughts. I was carried away.
But Martin, Jesus,
which shows you didn't create them.
But Martin, Jesus even taught us how to pray. Our Father which art in heaven.
No, he gave us the attitude. That's an attitude.
He never told us.
We're not supposed to repeat
this
those words
silent prayer. This silent prayer doesn't even make sense to nobody. But
I don't call it a silent prayer.
well, Roy,
You
whatever
know, you
Roy
are
Masters,
quiet,
whatever Roy Masters
you are.
called, because Jesse stole it from Roy Masters, which
Right. And Jesse changed it. He actually changed the technique and things. And what he changed was where you just like, you're sitting there like a dumb bump on a log. And so thoughts just flow into you and you have no reference point to those thoughts. Because once you have a reference point, it doesn't like that. Because now that reference point is, I see you. I see where you're coming from, literally. And it doesn't like that. And that's when your power starts to happen over these thoughts. Your conscience now is your new guided power. And see, that's like it's a progressive thing. Like you'll start out with a prayer and you'll start out like believing 10,000 thoughts for every thought you let go by. And by 6 months, you're believing one thought for every 1,000 that you're letting go by. And you'll see that you're relaxed, happy. You wake up relaxed and happy. You don't need drugs. You don't need great food to pleasure you, to make you thank God for life kind of thing.
Got a question.
You know?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
Alexander's
You
got
will be at peace. You will be at peace that's beyond, like, why am I so peaceful and calm all the time? Why am I in such a good mood all the
all
time?
right, you're getting like Jesse did with that other guy. You wouldn't let somebody else
but
talk.
Jesse
for-
was lying.
Hold on
under
for
pressure.
a minute. Alexander's got a question for you.
All right, go for it.
Okay.
Okay, what's your take on the 7 guaranteed steps that Jesse wrote and he had his audio engineer Chris Barkman narrate? I got the audio book for it. What's your take on that book, the Bible Go-To Guy?
Wow. Alexander, repeat that whole thing again and go just a little bit slower because I have one nearly deaf ear from the cancer, and cancer is from my previous sins, of course. You bring on these kind of chronic diseases on yourself by being a chronic sinner. So can you repeat that whole question again?
My condolences to the cancer, Bible Go-To Guy. Anyway, the 7 guaranteed steps to success, the 7 guaranteed steps to success by Jesse Lee Peterson, narrated on Audible books by his audio engineer, Chris Barkman. What's your take on that book?
My take on that is my take on everything Jesse says that seems to be good or wise. It's all from Roy Masters. He's been parroting Roy Masters for years and getting away with it. And he also knows the technique of allowing the other guy to get upset first and make him look bad, and then he becomes out of sorts. And from there on, he's your bitch, so to speak. Right? Once you get somebody upset and you're still calm, they're intimidated by that. And from there on, you got them. That's why it says in the kingdom, that's why it says in the Bible that your enemies will come at you from one direction and flee from you in 7 directions. And why one man of God is worth 10,000 of the enemy.
Was that good, Alexander? Did you hear him okay?
Yeah, that was good. It seemed like a very realistic book, though. But what is Roy Masters?
It is. Roy Masters was a very wise Jew because he discovered the principles of hypnotism and how demonic forces work and all that stuff. And he wrote, like I said, he wrote at least 6, 7 books that I know of on different subjects, dealing with, the satanic force within, and how clever it is to disguise itself as you. And Jesse was like Roy's understudy for 2 years. He was up there doing a radio show with him. And it's interesting, someone put together the fact that Jesse used to always tell us how he would come home from the show and feel like hell. And he had to lay down. He felt so bad. And then we were wondering now, someone else smarter than me said, why would he feel so bad if he was just with a godly man for a couple hours? Why would he feel so bad coming home that he'd have to crash out on the couch? He couldn't move from the pain that was in his body. Well, because of the conflict that Roy, the truth that Roy was speaking was like a serious conflict to him. And we just figured that out like
recently, because he'd always tell us that story of how he put up with, how he overcame pain and everything, where he doesn't need pleasure. And that was one crucial story that he was, after he got through with the radio show with Roy, he'd be like all busted up, but you shouldn't be all busted up. You should be like walking on air or something after you've gone to see a wise man and he's told you how to overcome your issues.
I don't know if you can see me right now, Bible go together, but do I look like a Jew kind of? I have the long nose. I have dark hair that turns reddish when it gets long. My eyes are really kind of greenish brown, but right now because the lighting, it looks dark. Do I look like a Jew Bible go-to guy? What do you think?
I would say that white people are the true colored people. You just described about 4 different colors. And black folks just have black hair and black eyes. Black skin, black hair, black eyes. We're the really colored people. Some white woman put that on YouTube once, and I thought that was so clever.
Well,
we got blonde hair, we got red hair, we got dark hair, black hair, brown hair, red hair. I mean,
hey, Martin, now that you mentioned that, let me ask a question from Alexander. He said he's anti-racist. Can you explain, what you were talking about?
Well, I may actually surprise you guys with the actual policies I want. I think that whites are ungrateful for their privilege, but this might upset you guys. We're ungrateful for their privilege by rejecting their identity. Whites need to be like, yeah, I'm white. Yeah, there are privileges that come with it. Yeah, meritocracy. Yeah, there's cosmic luck that comes with white because my forefathers were so good at making stuff. So therefore, white people should accept their privilege. They should be great at they should be okay with identifying as white. And a lot of problems arise when whites do not accept their privilege. And also, I think race mixing is really bad. I think that it's internalized racism by the POCs, but by the whites, it's fetishization. So I think we actually, surprisingly, we agree a lot probably on policy-wise. I also think that for whites, I think whites maybe should pay maybe some reparations. So they should clone themselves until they outnumber every other race on the planet. Maybe put themselves on Mars, so that way they can live in Mars and they can pay reparations back to Earth, maybe a little bit for at least, so that way there can just be like, whites can outnumber every other race on a global level. What do you think of that, Bible go-to guy?
Whites do not outnumber anybody on a global level. Did you say that?
I know they don't. That's why they should clone themselves until they do, and then they can put their excess people on Mars, and then they can
clone themselves. No, just normal sex and making babies and raising them the right way is the best way to do it.
I don't know if that's. I'm sorry, Bible.
It's the normal process of the nuclear family, right?
I don't know if that's like I'm an anti-racist.
White people are dying off in great
exactly. So how are they going to be able to do it that way?
Because they've been guilt tripped into believing that they are the sole source of evil in the world, when actually it's been black people who've been the sole source of evil in the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands.
See, my thing is, a lot of people are arguing they should pay reparations, the racial Europeans, the white people. I believe that too, and I believe, though, in order for them to do that, there's got to be more of them, though. So if white people really are guilty, and I think some people should be, there's got to be more of them saying reparations. They got to clone themselves up, because at this point, natural birth isn't going to do it. They got to clone themselves, or it's not going to happen.
Well, let me ask you this: what does white man have to be guilty about?
Well, whites, for one, they're not grateful for their privilege. If they were grateful for their privilege, they would accept their identity, and then they would be
really. How's the white man privileged, though, Alexander? How am I privileged over a black man?
The white man is. I can answer that. The white man is privileged because he earned his privilege. He set up the most righteous. He set up the most righteous, the most prosperous, the most just country and system of laws that the world has ever seen. It's called America. And
let me throw something at you guys. But what if I'm a black man, or what if I'm not a black man? Let's say someone is a black man. They didn't get to choose their forefathers were not that great, or they didn't get to choose their forefathers were not that. They didn't get to choose their forefathers were not lucky enough to build stuff. or to do stuff like that, or an Asian man from some very poor age, they didn't get to pick their forefathers. So like, you know, a lot of it just is kind of luck. You would agree to that, Bible Go to guy?
A lot of it is God's blessing. See, God had to pick somebody to be the top dog, and he picked the white race and the Jewish race. And, you know, listen, I was working at UCLA for many years. And one time I passed by this math department, and outside were a bunch of math students trying to figure out the day's homework, the last night's homework with each other before class began. And I kind of looked over their shoulder and saw what they were doing. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was intelligent, smart, and a Harvard material. I just never got the break kind of thing. No way. These guys were doing stuff that was like looking at things and equations and geometry that just blew my mind. I'm like, how do you do this stuff? I mean, this is mind-boggling.
I'm the first person in my family
about a lot of high-tech stuff. These are really smart people. But see, there's a difference between being smart and being moral. Because Hitler had plenty of smart doctors working for him who would do very heinous, evil things, experiments on the Jews under their imprisonment. And so intelligence and school and all that stuff is not going to save America. It's morality that's going to save America, right and wrong and stuff. And so white people have always, if you notice, if I get off on a tangent here, stop me. The Jews, when they took over Hollywood, they totally corrupted it because most Jews
Whoa,
don't
man,
really
whoa, man,
believe
that's
in
a
the
tangent
their
there,
own
man.
Jewish
That's a
religion.
tangent.
They don't really believe in their own Jewish religion, most Jews. So they're Jews by blood only, and they're like a lost generation, and they have plenty of talent and skill and brains to go. But what they do, they also have plenty of immorality to go. And so they ruined Hollywood. If you look at all the old black and white Hollywood films, they were moral. They enhanced America's, value system. The Jimmy Stewarts of the day, the John Waynes and those guys, they make
that's a
cool American
tangent,
films.
Bible Go to guy. That's a
Finally got
tangent.
control of Hollywood. It was just the opposite. Hollywood became an anti-American institution, and it's all because of the original sin. What's the original sin? Jealousy. Cain was jealous of Abel and killed him. The blacks and the other races are jealous of the Jews and the whites, how they're able to make such wonderful societies and wonderful, science inventions and all that stuff. And instead of just appreciating that fact, like I appreciated the fact of the brilliance of the UCLA students, math students, I'm like, can't we just all get along? I'm happy to be an air conditioning tech. That's a challenge enough for me, and to make a decent living that way. I don't have to be some super high paid, athlete. I don't have that body, but I appreciate, what they can do, and dancers and all kind of different skills that I can't do. I appreciate them. I'm no longer jealous of them, because I was jealous of other people, just like black folks are of white folks. And, Asians
Let me get
less so
that's
on
it.
intelligence.
Tangent alert, Bible Go to guy. Tangent alert there. Let me start something. I actually, I'm not offended at anything that you said. I figure you're entitled to your opinion, and I don't want anyone to boycott you for what you said, Bible Go to guy. But I am a Jew by both. I'm opening up my own synagogue actually, and I have a nose and I look like a Jew, but and I'm an anti-racist, but I think that the world needs more white people to pay reparations. So we obviously have some big disagreements, but I still think you're a very decent guy. And I think a lot of your beliefs come from a good place. I got to acknowledge that, Bible Go to guy.
They are. The Jews are such a powerful, smart people that I don't want to get them out of the country. I always talk about we need to ship all the blacks out, but and keep maybe a few good ones. But the Jews, I wish we could send out 70% of them and keep the 30% who are conservative Republicans. They're powerful people, like Mark Levin and who's that Jew who does the Daily Wire? Ben Shapiro. Guys like that. Jews like that, I love. Dennis Prager, those guys.
You see, the thing is, those guys are pro. You notice is that those Jews, the Dennis Prager, the Ben Shapiro, I don't know the other guy, but those two, Ben Shapiro and Dennis
Mark
Prager.
Levin, he's big deal.
those guys are neocons, so they're all pretty pro-immigrant, pro-non-white immigration, or pro-whatever immigration. But most of the immigrants, they want to see that they happen to have come in with their policies they advocate happen to be non-white. So it's like, do you ever?
No. They're against all this invasion of the southern border.
Yeah, but it's
I don't know
like
where you're getting that from.
I've heard that Kevin B. I don't believe in Kevin B. McDonald. I don't believe what he says. You know, the clinical psychologist guy, he has said neocons are pro mass immigration of non-whites.
Oh, I mean, I know neocons are pro-war. They like to always keep war going somewhere, you know, and I don't know what their issue is. But I never heard that said about neocons that they, I mean, what you just said, just slipped my mind. I'm having a senior moment. What'd you just say about the neocons?
Well, going back to what I said, unlimited war means unlimited refugees. The places where the wars usually start, unlike Ukraine right now, the places where the wars usually start are like very brown places where like there are a lot of, I don't mean to be offensive, like I'm anti-racist, like I said, but usually what neocons do is it results in wars where the refugees flee from the darker countries into the lighter countries, if you observe that.
Exactly, and that's how they want to bring down the whiter countries. They want to bring them down because they know that the darker people, you know, it's not just a matter of race either. I don't want European whites to come over to America because most of them are already indoctrinated with socialism. You know, so they're just as bad as the POCs. They may be smarter and know how to run things and build things and create things, but you know, they're just too darn socialist and communist for me to want them over here either.
My thing, let me tell you this. I think whites and Jews are privileged. Whites and whites and the European Jews are privileged people. The racial Europeans and the European Jews. I think we have a big privilege. I mean, therefore, even if historically it's questionable if we deserve reparations, I mean, if we should give reparations historically, like we have an obligation to help out the races that are less privileged and that are not going. And I think meritocracy also is racist. So I think that we have like a moral obligation to clone ourselves and create a big wealth and to pay maybe some money to maybe help out the less blessed people.
Well, let me stop you there for a minute. Hold on, Martin. We'll get at least one word in here. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Alexander. What about the black people who are successful in life, like the doctors that I know, the dentists, the lawyers, the professors, the engineers?
Affirmative action people, they're all affirmative
No,
action.
they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not affirmative action.
Go on with your question. Go on with your question.
So let me ask you this: how could they succeed? And I know they're not all affirmative action because I just know.
Who do you know? How do you know which ones are or aren't?
I'll tell you one who I know. I'll tell you, Martin, if you'll take a break for a minute, you'd love to talk. Hold on for a minute.
I'm sorry.
This is three people trying to talk. I know one black person. I know two, a matter of fact, that were not affirmative action blacks. And that was my surgeon and was also my one of my dentists I had. They did awesome work. And plus, I know a lot of blacks that are successful in their lives, maybe not on that scale of being an attorney or so whatever, but an air conditioner man, an engineer.
Like me.
But listen, what kept them? I'm asking Alexander, what kept them down? I mean, kept them from being down like the other blacks. That's where I say it goes to the choice. They made the choice to be successful.
Well, there is an exception to every
individual
rule.
choice.
I'd argue those blacks got blessed pretty much. Like I know them too. I know Thomas Sowell, Larry Elder, neither of the two are reparations. Candace Owens, they're all like they're successful blacks, but it's like I believe in systemic racism, and I believe that they don't have any white privilege. I believe that a lot of that is good fortune, and they may be the exception to the rule. You see, I agree though, they definitely do exist, those blacks.
Yeah, but so how could they succeed?
They're exceptions.
How come the white man didn't keep them down?
Well, they're exceptions. They were able to get past the fact that they did not have the privilege, and it's like like I've said, a lot of people think that the white man keeping people down means there's got to be less of the white man. And somehow the solution is like get rid of the white man. But it's like, my thing is, how is the white man going to pay reparations if there's not enough of him? So there's got to be more of them. And we got to, a lot of times the white man sometimes encourages, sometimes the white man, they put the drugs in the blacks' home. And so it split up the families. Maybe they were like the few blacks who came from good families, maybe.
But at the same time, the CIA, let's say, put the drugs in the black communities. They did not make the blacks pick them up and use them. They made
Yeah,
that,
who made the whites take the fentanyl?
they made
Was that the
that
blacks?
choice.
Was that white privilege also?
Well, the
Whites were
whites
dying
got,
from fentanyl in record numbers.
let me answer. The whites were also hit by the upper class. See, sometimes the elites try to hurt their own kind also, so they don't seem like they're racist. They also hurt their own kind.
Well, exactly. It's about good versus evil, really. And it's just that whites and Jews have been better at good than evil, than the other races. And so they earned their privilege.
So you're saying
See,
the Jews have been good at being good? Is that, did I hear you say that? Is that what you said?
Compared, yes, especially when you compare them to the Arabs and the Persians around them. All they do is form these ghetto societies in these Palestinian places and hate and are jealous of and hate the Jews for the beautiful country they built out of nothing practically. That place,
I'll tell you what, the Jews were such good people that were kicked out of 109 countries.
Well, I've heard that before. And that probably has lots of truth to it because Jews rise to the top because they are so smart and intelligent. They rise to the top and take over.
Every country
No
that
matter what.
every country that the Jewish people have come to, they've tried to overtake it with pornography and
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
they're not good.
So
The Jews, I'm sorry, you're Jewish. I'm not.
It's okay.
I'm not attacking you personally.
It's fine.
But look at what they did in Germany. I mean, Lord have mercy. And when Hitler was burning those books, it was not Bibles he was burning. He was burning pornography, books on bestiality. They had the 60-something genders going on back then. Adolf Hitler was trying to clean up his country and get all that filth out of his country, get away with usury, where there wasn't no bankers in there. So no, I disagree with you, Bible go-to Martin, about the Jews being good. They were good at being deceptive and getting and bringing filth in.
I compliment them on their brilliance, their intelligence, brilliance. I'm saying that because they don't even practice their old school, Jewish religion, most of them don't. They don't even practice it. The conservative ones are the ones who mostly practice it.
They do practice it. They do practice it, Martin. You're a Christian and you said they don't practice it. Jesus said they're from their father, the devil. The traditions of man, they followed that ever since the beginning of time. So how you saying they don't follow their religion? Huh? They do follow it. They don't follow Christianity. They don't follow the Torah. They don't follow the Old Testament. They follow.
That's what I'm saying. Most Jews don't, but there are some Jews that do. And they're the ones on our side.
The Messianic Jews?
Yes.
That's mine.
And others, even the ones who aren't Messianic, but they just try to follow the old school 10 Commandments and the Torah and all that stuff. Good solid folks. Good solid folks. Now the problem is 70% of Jews vote Democrat, and those are the ones who most likely are not practicing their religion. And Jesus already fulfilled. When he came down and he got man's sins forgiven, and we have now a direct connection, a direct and constant connection to God that the Jews didn't have back in the ancient days. They had to be infilled with the Spirit to prophecy and stuff like that. Whereas we're now, because of Jesus, who was a Jew, by the way.
No, he was an Israelite. There's a big difference between a Jew and an Israelite.
Oh, the Jews were the only ones left back in the day. It was just the Jews, the Benjamites, and the Levites. They were the only tribes left. during Jesus' time. All the other tribes have been, dispersed.
Well, let me ask Alexander, what do you think about Jesus? Do you think he's the Messiah?
I think he is. I actually have a lot of reason to. I listen to Dr. William Lane Craig sometimes. I agree with him sometimes. The Christian guy, Dr. William Lane Craig. Then you have Dr. Rene Girard, late, dead now. And he wrote the Mimetic Theory, which kind of proves there is Jesus by looking at by comparing Christianity to a bunch of myths that happened in the past. So with those two things, plus I guess St. Thomas of Aquinas, you have proof that Jesus was the Messiah, or not proof, but even if he's not the Messiah, I at least consider him to be a very high prophet in my form of Judaism. Thank you.
You can't have it both. No, you can't have it both ways. He's either a lying prophet or he was the son of God.
Okay, the first way.
That's what the Muslims try to do. They try to say, well, Jesus was a prophet, but he wasn't born of the Virgin Mary. He didn't do the miracle. He didn't rise from the dead and all that stuff. And I'm saying, look, you guys don't believe in Jesus. You don't believe in
the first way. I think he's
just
God.
drop your pretense. Okay.
Okay. I picked the first way. He's God now. I give up the highest prophet thing. I give that part up. I'm going to change that.
Yeah. Well, see, Martin don't believe that Jesus is God, so he's going.
No, Son of God. It says he's the firstborn of all creation.
He's the Alpha.
Now,
He said he also
you were
said
created.
He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end.
As far as we're concerned. Not
Oh,
as far as God.
So it said that in Revelations, as far as people are concerned, I am the Alpha and the Omega.
If you read all of Revelation, you would know that there's a point in Revelation where it says, and God put all power under him, God accepted. He put all nations, all heaven and earth and hell and everything under Christ's authority, and except himself. God is still over Christ because God is the originator of everything. In fact, he's the one who gave birth to Christ. Christ is the firstborn of all creation, like it says in Galatians. And everything was made for Christ. And that's why Christ is the one who had to come sacrifice for us, because he is the beginning, and he needed to suffer our sorrows so he could better better relate to us.
He had to do, let me get that. So Jesus had to do that to be able to better relate to us.
That's right.
Where do you get
Come
that
on,
from?
you're up in heaven all this time, and you're looking down. It's not the same thing as when you're in the muck.
Wow.
The generals don't fight. The generals don't fight the same war as the foot soldier. Well, Jesus went from being a general to a foot soldier, and so he suffered it as foot soldiers suffer.
Well, that's for another discussion. I would love to have a good discussion on that. Why some people don't believe that Jesus is God, and some people do believe that Jesus is God. But
when you think about it, what's the problem of Jesus being number 2 in all of heaven and earth and everything? Okay.
What's the problem with him? What's the problem with him being number 1?
Because there's only one number 1. There's not 2 number 1s. There's not
God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Right. You make God into a schizophrenic when you say there's more than one mind of God. There's one mind of God. That's the mind of God. There's one. There's not 3 minds in one mind of God. That sounds schizophrenic.
So let me stop you guys. You guys don't believe in the Trinity if I take that, right? I believe in the Trinity. You guys don't believe it then, right?
I do, but
I believe the Trinity. I believe in Father, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Yes. Yeah.
Right, but I don't believe in that each one is God. No, each one. See, the Holy Spirit and God, and the Holy Spirit and Jesus come from God. They are not God. They come from him. So of course they're going to have God's attributes: life everlasting, power to over sin and hell, the power to create, all that stuff that comes from God through them.
You might need
hard to understand. It's real simple to understand.
Where did that thought come from, Martin? Because
Where did what come from?
That thought you just give us, that was a thought that you had, right?
Nice try. No, actually, it is a thought that I've read that before, but makes so much sense that it doesn't even war against my conscience. I don't even have to struggle with believing it. I've always believed it even as a little boy. I knew that was true. And even as a little boy, as a Catholic, I never believed Jesus was God. I just thought when the Catholics said that, they were being like, oh, what's the word called? Where you don't really mean it. It's kind of like symbolic. When we used to pray that great Holy Mary, Mother of God, I never believed Mary was the mother of God. What does that make her?
Well, if you want,
that makes her above God. If you're the mother of God, that makes you above God.
well, when you start talking about the Catholics, I don't know how Alexander feels, but that's a whole another subject right there. Them praying to dead people and everything else. Praying to Mary.
Like I have a teacher who told me there's no such thing as a pure religion. I mean, in my school, that's what they taught me in class. No such thing as a pure religion. So it's possible that Catholicism, perhaps.
The pure religion, Alexander, the pure religion is within. That's the pure religion. And God is the pure religion within. His Holy Spirit will reveal to you the pure religion. See, the proof of God is not without. Because as Moses led the Israelites through the desert and
who did he lead? He led the Israelites, not the Jews, right?
Oh, well, the Jews were part of the Israelites. There were still Jews back then. There was the tribe of Judah.
They were the mixed multitude that came along with the Israelites. They were not the Israelites.
Yeah. There was 11 other tribes that came along with the Jews or the Judas.
The Israelites.
And so even though Moses did all those great miracles in front of these Israelites, they still made that golden calf. They still didn't believe in God. See, only Moses did at the time. Moses and a few of the guys around him, like Joshua and Caleb and guys like that, they believed with all their heart. But the other Jews, they were like, show me another miracle or I'll just forget I believe. And so they were the people who God's always had trouble with, and why he would always call the Jews a stiff-necked people. There was always a remnant, though, of the Jews who were true blue. The prophets that we admire and everything. The King David, King Solomon, the guys like that.
Well, do you remember in the New Testament when Nathaniel was walking up and Jesus saw him and said, "Now there is a true Israelite"? Why didn't he call him a Jew? Why did he call him an Israelite? Why did he choose to use that word Israelite instead of Jew?
Okay, you win.
Well, I'm just questioning. It's just a question.
Yeah, because an Israelite and a Jew is the same thing. It's like saying you're an Alabaman and you're an American. At the time he just called him an American instead of an Alabaman or a New Yorker or a New Yorker.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you think, Alexander?
Yeah, Alexander.
You got quiet on me, Alexander.
Well, I am a lot less fundamental than you guys are. I believe that the Bible is summed up into the 2 commandments: love thy neighbor with all their heart, or everyone should love their neighbors with all their heart, and love God with all their heart. And apart from that, I think that science answers all the other moral questions, and that's where I agree with Sam Harris on that, but I do not agree with on the specifics like that. I believe that race is different from what Sam Harris says, and I believe that there is a God. I believe that God created science to help us answer the other moral questions they left out in the Bible. So that's my take on morality, and I believe that God and the simulation theory are compatible beliefs, because there is definitely a simulation theory that is definitely true. That is also God. The simulation and God are the same thing, or the simulation is how God is controlling things, and therefore that proves there's a God. So I believe both in Jesus and God, and that is the foundation for my moral system. So thank you.
Okay, could I ask you this though, Alexander?
Yeah.
Getting back to what we originally started talking about, pornography and all, do you think Jesus would want you to delve into that?
Well, I think Jesus
or Moses.
Well, let me start now. I think God created science, then he created like Ted Bundy's case so I could observe it and I could understand that, yeah, pornography is a bad idea. That's why God created science to prove to me that was a bad idea. I started doing pornography. The reason why I started trying to make a film is because I'm an autistic man, so I have a hard time getting like sex apart from things like that. Where if someone came up to I have a hard time asking women out. I have a hard time getting a woman to say yes to me. So like if I'm making a movie, I can actually get one to say yes, and I could pay them to sit to have the movie with me, to make it with me and have sex. And then they couldn't falsely accuse me of anything because everyone would know they agreed to make a film with me, and have them sign a contract and everything. That seems like the perfect way to do it, to make a movie like that. That's why I started thinking of pornography and making it. Plus, it was going to be inspirational and educational, the film, because autistic men are known to have a very hard time getting laid, unless they're the Silicon Valley guys like Bill Gates, Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg. Those guys are billionaires, but they're autistic also. So those guys are the exception to the rule. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you this, Alexander. Does it sound like maybe there's an ulterior motive behind you wanting to do this to begin with?
No, it's mostly that. It's like I have a hard time getting women to go out with me. I figured I could make some money doing porn also. And it's like I'd be justified because, yeah, women usually reject autistic men. That's why, or maybe they don't, but like it's hard for me to get one because of that. Is I always upset them without realizing it. So I just figured if I'm making a movie, that's a go-to. If they want their money, they're gonna go and do it with me. And everyone's going to know it's consensual because it's a movie. I'm going to have them sign a contract. And I was going to have a doctor film the part where we have sex. I was going to make a doctor's appointment, and I was going to have a doctor hold up the phone and videotape us having sex for that part of the film. So that's how I was planning doing the pornographic film that I was talking about. Thank you.
Look here, I tell you what, I tell you how you can get all that stuff out of your mind right now. If you could spend 3 months and come down here to Georgia and hang out with me for 3 months and let me teach you a good talk game, how to talk to women and get your Southern accent going, man, you'll have plenty of women then. You won't have to pay no woman.
Okay.
Just jiving with you. But yeah, I don't know much about autism. Actually, I don't know anything about it. But I just don't see how, looking at the negatives of pornography and what it's done to this country and done to the world in general, how anything good could come from a teaching moment or anything from pornography. That's me, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, sex is like food, right? When you eat food, like I said, you don't want to be like my sister. You don't want to be getting all into it. When she was eating food, it was good food. We were at a restaurant. It was very tasty, but she was like, you could hear her grunting with pleasure over, it was like sex, right? Because that's what it is. Pleasure. All pleasures have the same effect on us. We get into it to escape from what we really are inside, which is weaklings. We're spiritual weaklings, and we can commit evil at the drop of a hat. We're so weak to it, and we don't want to see that. So we pleasure ourselves to forget the pain of what we are, the pain of our existence. And so sex is for making babies. You really don't want to get into sex for pleasure and escape, because it's only going to make you weaker. You'll be much weaker to pain and everything. Even physical pain, I'm able to handle better because I'm not all into the pain.
Well, let me ask you this, Martin.
Yes, sir.
If it was just intended for procreation to recreate, why is there a pleasure factor involved in it? And since there is, aren't we supposed to be able to control that tendency that we had to enjoy the pleasure from it? So can we?
Yeah, it's just like when you eat food. It's not like, oh, don't taste the food. Burn out all your taste buds. No, I'm just saying, you understand, you do see it tastes good, but you're not getting into it like my sister. See, I and my sister ate the same food, but I was more detached from it. I was like, oh, this food's pretty good. But, I wasn't like, oh,
You know, I
She
didn't
was
mean to
unconscious.
sound.
She was actually unconscious. You know, like the pigs when they snort when they're eating the food.
So she
That
was,
was her.
so she was making love to the meatloaf and you wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Making love to the meatloaf. That's funny, man. Like people do to their cigarettes, their
Right.
drugs, or whatever. They get into that. They
Right.
get into more and more extreme pleasures because they're more and more out of control.
Right.
I don't mean to sound self-pitying. Like if you guys have problems too, like I just said a bunch of mine. If you guys are having some problems, you guys can say them on this call also. This chat.
Well, I'll share this with you. I had problems for a long time with drug abuse. I mean, I was a bad drug addict from an early age, and that was my way of escaping reality.
Exactly.
I was using that to escape reality. And
Yeah.
and Alexander, it took me almost dying to realize, and still I almost died a few times because of drug abuse or drug use. And either one of those times kept me from wanting to realize that it wasn't the right thing to do. It just finally took me just give it up, saying, you know what, Lord, you have saved me so many times from myself, from this drug abuse. And I've just been hard-headed, ain't listened to you. And I'm gonna listen to you. And I lost that desire. I prayed to God to take that desire away from me, and he took that desire away from me. That's what a powerful God he is. You know, if you want it, he'll let you have it until you hurt yourself. But then when you finally cry out to him and you ask him, Lord, I can't take this no more.
Okay, good idea.
He'll
Good.
take it from you.
Okay, I think we've talked enough about stuff today. If you guys want to upload this to YouTube and upload the previous one to YouTube, that's fine by me.
Okay. Yeah, we've been on here a hot minute, haven't we?
Okay, so we should go now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds good. Is there a way people can find you on YouTube or Twitter or something,
I
Alexander?
am Alexander Ohnemus on Instagram. I mean, on YouTube, I'm Alexander Ohnemus. See my username here. That is Alexander Ohnemus. On Instagram, I am the Anointed Skeptic. That is the Anointed Skeptic, all lowercase, no spaces.
That's a clever title.
Okay, on Getter, you know, the Getter made by Trump's ex-cabinet member, I'm also the Anointed Skeptic, all lowercase, no spaces, the exact words, the Anointed Skeptic. So thank you, Bible Go-To guy. Have a nice day, guys.
And how can
Okay,
how can we find you, Alexander? People can find you. I'm not Alexander, but Martin.
Well, can you text me Alexander's information there, Skip? Because I couldn't record that as he was speaking.
Yes, I will. I'll send it over.
It went in one ear and out the other.
Oh Lord. Okay, I'll
when
send.
When you get to be a certain age, okay. Okay, to reach me, it's simple. My email is sgtfrancis@gmail.com, and my YouTube channel is Sergeant Francis. Spell it out, SERGEANT Francis. And right now, all it is an actually, it's two things. I'm a two-trick pony, not just a one-trick pony. It's basically an anti-Jesse YouTube channel, and it also teaches people how to pray. Because they need to know how to observe themselves so they don't get caught up in food and drugs and sex and all the other pleasures that distract you from what's wrong with you.
Well, look here. I'll in my description when I put this on YouTube, I will put all Alexander's information, how to get a hold of him, and how to find you also, Martin. Okay.
I appreciate it, sir.
Look here, I've enjoyed this conversation with you guys, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Okay, have a nice day, guys.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Alexander and Skip.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Remarkable. Remarkable.